everybody. Welcome back. Today's session is on change. As always, this is a reminder to take what resonates, leave what does not. Use your discretion. All of this will challenge what you know, so it will benefit you to come into this with an open-minded heart. Some things we can know. I am. Everything is the here and now. All is the one and one is the all. And what you put out is what you get back. So for those of you who are not in the WhatsApp group, we have a book called The Alchemist that I've shared that really personifies, really explores the spiritual journey and synchronicity that one may encounter during their journey. It is fictional, but based on the author's own experiences. So it's a good mirror reflection of what you might encounter or can open up to believe what's possible, to sort of allow what's possible versus being stuck in believing some things aren't possible. So I definitely recommend The Alchemist. If there are any progress recognitions, any breakthroughs that everybody's had in the chat, feel free to share now. Now we'll go ahead and move on. Do a short recap of 3 sessions. We've come to understand what we are not, our false structures, negative ego, thoughts, emotions, beliefs. We've come to understand permission slips are things, objects, tools, rituals that can help us to become more of who we are. We've come to understand the ways negativity slips into our lives with negative beliefs, limiting beliefs, the way we talk. We've come to learn why we can address things positively. We are eternal, powerful souls having a short experience. We can bring that experience of our souls down into our everyday life to understand there's love, light, joy in every moment. We've come to understand the here and now. Everything is here, everything is now. The past and future are illusions. Putting energy into them is basically taking energy away from the now, introducing rumination and anxieties instead of living in the moment. Now we've come to understand all that is. We've come to understand karma and frequency, karma as a reflective mirror instead of a judgment system, and frequency, a quality of all that is that resonates through the universe. Everybody has a core frequency and can change their experienced frequency based on their choices, decisions. We've come to understand love and unconditional love as a core frequency of the universe, of all that is. And we've come to understand synchronicity being the events seemingly not correlated to other events, but may inform you of things going on in your life. So things like angel numbers, guidance, inner knowings, meeting the right people at the right time. These are all ways that our manifestations can talk to us and provide guidance to us. So we'll go ahead and get into our grounding meditation for today. Going into the meditation, feel free to visualize a space that feels safe and relaxing. You may use the screen if you need. So let's go ahead and begin by just letting yourself arrive here in the moment, just as you are. Take a moment to adjust your seat or posture, make sure you're comfortable in a supported position that's not straining. Let your hands rest gently in your lap or by your side, and allow your eyes to close or soften your gaze on the screen. Let's go ahead and take a long, deep breath in through our nose. And exhale gently through our mouths. And again, inhale and exhale. 3 more times. Let each breath bring you into this moment. And allow your attention to settle. Not forcing. Now imagine you are sitting beside a slow-flowing river. You're safe, grounded. The air is calm, and the earth beneath you is solid. You can hear the gentle sound of the water moving, not rushing, not still, just flowing. This river represents change. Every drop of water is a moment, a thought, a memory, an emotion passing by. You may see moments from your life gently floating on the surface. Decisions, changes that you've had to let go of. Things that changed you. But just observe. No judgment. Just watch. You're not the river. You are not what flows by. You are the observer, one who remains experiencing the flow. And I begin to notice that the more you observe the river without trying to stop it, the more peaceful it becomes. You may realize that change is not your enemy. It is simply the way things grow, move, and unfold. Just like this breath, it arrives, it passes, and another one comes. You don't need to control the river. You don't need to fix it. just be with it and trust that even as life shifts, there's a part of you calm, aware, steady, that never leaves. You're not here to resist the current. You are here to remember that you can float. And with that, we'll move into covering what change is. Overall, change is not the most extravagant of topics, but it is a universal law, as with the previous four that we've mentioned. Everything changes aside from the other four laws that we've covered so far. Everything is in motion. Even if things look still at some level, there's change going on, atoms moving, air flowing. No moment, no condition, no state is ever present here in our experience. And this change allows for growth to happen. Remember, growth is one of the core reasons we are choosing this experience. Every moment is a snapshot, and we flow through those moments. There's no moment that is repeated. Every moment is different. I'm sure you've heard of the common saying, you cannot step into the same river twice, by Heraclitus. This means that even though the river looks the same from the banks, the water flowing through it is different. The wildlife in the river is different. The positions are different. Even the river itself may change its flow over time, create new shores, new banks. Even if things look the same, there's never a repeated moment. And even in science, we expect the same reactions for certain conditions, right? But even the same reactions are never the same. The result is different. There's atoms in different places. There's different atoms involved. And even sometimes the same situation can produce a different outcome if the circumstances are right. So that's a note on using the past to inform your future, even if some outcome has been repeated a few times, it doesn't mean it's always going to be the same outcome in the future. Trying to control change or anything for that matter can create suffering. Remember, resistance is in that formula of pain plus resistance equals suffering. Change here would be in the place of pain plus resistance. So change plus resistance equals suffering. If there's no resistance, there's no suffering. It's just what is. When you're in a state of allowing, change brings freedom, right? You're taking aligned actions, not afraid to move on from where you are. We have a good quote from Joyce Meyer here. You can suffer the pain of change or suffer remaining the way you are. This speaks to the common situation where we don't feel the urge to change when we're in a familiar or comfortable position. We want to make sure we view change and events overall as neutral. They're neither good nor bad, just like other events. It's our meaning that we assign that creates our emotional reactions. This goes back to reframing every event, every change can be brought into neutral. Remember, even things we view positive may not necessarily be in the sense that they're serving us, right? You may think getting a raise is positive, but it keeps you in a job that's not aligned for you, then that's potentially actually negative. So you want to bring all those views from the negative to the positive back to neutral, and then you can assign your actual beliefs and definitions to that event, to that change, so that we can get the actual positivity out of it. What lessons did we learn? What experiences did we need? Um, Another example is that losing a job could be viewed negatively, but it could actually be leading you to a more aligned opportunity going forward. Many things in our reality are useful as a mirror, a reflection. Changes included in this, external changes reflect internal readiness. Remember, we've talked a bit about manifestation, synchronicity. Things may repeat if you're stuck in loops of misalignment, of reaction. So if you break those loops, the external will start to change. What manifest reveals where alignment is shifting or needed. Remember, this isn't always one-to-one, but in general, your experience overall will start to shift for sure. Because if everything is a manifestation, a holographic interpretation of reality, then it's our experience that is what we can fall back on because we know that to be real for sure, right? You're never given a change or challenge you aren't ready for or signed up for. If you're feeling you aren't ready for, that is a sign of resistance, a sign that there's lessons to be learned through the experience. So why do we resist change? Overall, it's going to be the fear of the unknown and attachment to comfort. Right? Why is the unknown scary to us? Because we don't know and we want to control our lives, make it so that we don't experience quote unquote negativity, right? And we have a tendency, or it's not really a tendency, we always choose what we believe benefits us the most. Any choice you make, you've weighed against the other options you have, and your beliefs determine whether you're choosing one option or the other. Even if you don't like what you're choosing, you're believing if you don't choose that, something even worse will happen to your position, to your experience, etc. So we will choose to remain in suffering even if we perceive a change to be worse than the current, even if it would bring relief of the suffering. So this is an example of the actual results may be positive of a change, but the change is still an unknown. So even choosing to remain in suffering is more comfortable than facing that unknown component. you know the suffering, it's comfortable to you. So facing that unknown will be a belief that prevents you from alleviating that suffering in a new environment after that change. There's a decent quote from Robert Anthony here. When it becomes more difficult to suffer than to change, you will change. This is directly correlated to us choosing to remain in suffering if we perceive the changes to be worse. Right? There's that sense of familiarity, that comfort that we settle into that prevents us from changing, even if it would be a positive change for our experience. Synchronicity wise, this is where when we're resisting alignment, things may start to build up. You know, you get a whisper to change, you get a loud direction to change, you get a push to change, you get a shove to change, and then you end up in an accident that forces you to change. So we don't need to get to that point if you choose to listen and act in alignment. And listen at the whisper instead of the car wreck. So further on why we're resisting the change is that the ego perceives change as danger or death of identity, death of itself. Remember, the ego, negative ego, wants to perpetuate itself to protect you out of love, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's acting in ways that are truly aligned for you. So it's not protecting you by keeping you locked up, right? Preventing change is one way to protect you from possible danger. But that doesn't necessarily mean there is actually danger ahead of us. It's just what is perceived by your negative beliefs or limiting beliefs. All right. One common one is back to the job example. You know you would love to do XYZ, but you have negative beliefs saying that what you love to do wouldn't support you, or you wouldn't be supported in that venture. So the ego prevents you from making that change to keep you out of the potential pitfalls of losing all that you have and eventually death, right? It loves to use death as the counter argument. You know, if you lose your job, you're gonna go hungry, you're gonna die. So we can use resistance that we feel to show us where we are not free, where we are holding negative beliefs. You know, even something as simple as choosing a new restaurant if you've grown comfortable with one restaurant. If you think about the restaurant and then take a step that then resists, that you feel the resistance, you know, and you don't know the menu or you don't know if you'll have enough time, those sorts of things may show you where you're not free, where the false beliefs or negative ego are getting in your way. The unknown. So an invitation for some shadow work is to ask yourself, what beliefs are you holding that keep you in a familiar situation versus experiencing a potentially more aligned situation? And remember, there's no such thing as mistakes. There's only learning opportunities, right? Even if what you choose is potentially more negative or less aligned, it helps you become more in alignment because that shows you what you don't prefer. Right? You can use that. Okay, I didn't like that restaurant. That shows me I'll be better off choosing a different restaurant next time or not returning. So what does alignment with change look like? It's using the river analogy, moving with the current, flowing with life. When you're confronted with change, are you actually making the choices aligned with you? Remember, one of the good determiners of alignment is when you make this decision, is it with love? Love of yourself, respecting yourself, your boundaries? Or is it out of a false structure like your negative ego or negative limiting beliefs? You'll listen to the subtle guidance, those whispers, your inner intuition, your excitement, the flow of life. When it's not our internal guidance and coming from the ego or negative beliefs, there may be fear involved, anxiousness, anxiety. The what ifs come up. But the inner guidance typically isn't connected to that. Next up, we have letting go of the ego's need for control and relaxing into the higher self's natural control. Remember the definition of surrender I shared a couple sessions ago. It's not giving up, but it's relaxing into the higher self's natural control, the inbuilt control that we all have in our manifestation. It's not directly connected to outcomes, controlling outcomes. So when we feel we need to have an outcome, that's the ego trying to direct you to not experience something it perceives as negative, harmful. But the higher self natural flow doesn't include those fears. And then once you make changes internally, you want to anchor them through action. You can talk all you want, but what are you doing? Are you reinforcing to the universe that you've actually changed, or are you just saying you've changed as a egoic escape, as a placation, saying that you've changed to make yourself feel better versus actually following through with the action, acting like that changed version of yourself? So next, we have a pretty obvious permission slip, but maybe not typically seen as permission slips. For reflection, reflection allows us to identify outcomes in the past compared to what we thought would happen. So just reviewing a past situation to determine if what we thought would happen would actually happen. And you can write down a change that you've gone through that led to unexpected good. Right? So we want to reinforce to ourselves that change is not quote unquote bad. It can lead to good. We want to break that fear of change so that we can act more in alignment, not be afraid of the things that we want to experience, the things that our soul needs to experience, being your true self. And then when you are reviewing that experience in your head, see if there's any synchronicities around it that you can notice. Did you meet the right person at the right time? Did someone provide you with something that helped you to experience that aligned change? It can be something as simple as wanting to go to a concert and then someone has those free concert tickets and offers them to you. You can journal as well. Think about what change you've been resisting. Where do you feel resistance in your life? And what is it trying to protect you from? But what is the actuality? What story have you attached to the change? And then for the rest of the week, you can do some awareness practice. Catch moments of resistance during the week and ask, is this change offering me expansion? And kind of breaks loose your fear of the change and what the change may bring. Are you trying to stay familiar, comfortable, or are you trying to grow and challenge yourself? That's it for change today. Do we have any questions? All right, if no questions, I'll go ahead and get started with the guided meditation. All right, let's go ahead and try to recall the grounded states that we had earlier. Bring your attention to your breath. Notice the natural rhythm without needing to change anything. Don't resist. Feel the inhale and the exhale. With every breath, let yourself arrive more fully into the moment. Inhale presence. Exhale tension. Feel the weight of your body, the space you take up, the support of the earth beneath you. And let this remind you that you are safe. You are here. You are grounded, even in the midst of change. Let's bring to mind a recent shift in your life, big or small, something that changed. Maybe something ended, something began, or something unexpected showed up. Let it float into your awareness, not to analyze or solve, but to observe. And notice, how does your body feel as you hold this change in your awareness? No judgment, just noticing. Imagine that you are standing at the edge of a beautiful garden. This is your inner garden, the living mirror of your inner world. The air here feels calm, peaceful, safe. As you walk through this garden, notice the variety of plants, flowers, and trees. Some are blooming, some are just sprouting, some are wilting or decomposing, returning to the soil. And still the garden is whole. Nothing is wrong, nothing is out of place. You kneel beside a plant you recognize, something that represents who you once were. Perhaps a memory, an identity, or a season of life. Maybe it's still growing, or maybe it's naturally fading. Place your hand over your heart and silently offer this plant gratitude for what it's brought you, for how it's shaped you, and allow it to be whatever it is now without needing to force or fix. You look around and notice a new sprout just beginning to emerge. It might represent a new chapter, a new desire, a part of yourself that is awakening. You don't have to know what it will become. You only need to care for it with curiosity and trust. Sit beside this new growth and breathe with it. Let it know that you're ready to allow it to grow. Even if slowly, even if imperfectly. Change is not a disruption, it is nature's rhythm, and you are part of nature. You were never meant to stay the same, you were meant to evolve. Feel that evolution as you continue to breathe with the new growth. Imagine any debris or anything inhibiting the growth as your fears, your anxieties, and imagine clearing them away for the new growth. Now imagine you have a watering can, and the water inside represents the support you give yourself to take action towards alignment, being your true self, and you water this new growth with that support. Now let's bring awareness to how we feel. Do you notice any shifts in your body, your breath, your energy? What did your garden show you? What season are you in? Allow yourself to trust. You can't skip the seasons, but you can flow with them. You aren't resisting the change, and that makes all the difference. Now let's take a few more deep breaths. Imagine anchoring in this feeling. The feeling of allowance. Excitement towards expansion, challenge. Excited to see what comes next. As we close down this meditation, remember, change is not something to survive, it's something to flow with. You are the witness, you are the grower, and you are the garden. Once again, thank you all for joining. Love you all. Have a good week.